He's the executive producer of all of the Batman films. But little did you know, it took Mike Uslah 7 years to get his first film made. No matter what obstacle faced him, Michael always looked at himself as a force. And here we go, behind the scenes with executive producer Michael Uslah.
My mother cut me the greatest deal that any mother ever cut a son in history. When my friends' parents were throwing out their comic books and burning them, because at that point the word on the street was comic books were causing juvenile delinquency. And that comic books, in fact, one psychiatrist claimed caused asthma because kids were staying indoors to read them instead of out playing in the warm air and the sun. And it was a very, very strange time. My mother said to me, if I kept all my comic books neat, and if I agreed to read other things, books, magazines, newspapers, in addition to the comics, I could keep them all. So I was able to amass a collection of, when I graduated college, it was 30,000 comics. And I sold 20,000 comics when I was about to get married. My wife was going to go to nursing school. I was going to start law school. We didn't have a dime. And with the 20,000 comics I sold, I bought her an engagement ring, her wedding ring. I took her on a honeymoon to Europe for 2.5 weeks, and I paid all 3 years room, board, and tuition for nursing school and law school. So, like, the comic book thing was really important, and I still kept 10,000 of my favorite, which were really, really good things. Over the years, I built up the collection again, and last year I donated 30,000 comic books to the Indiana University Rare Book Library, the Lilly Library. And it's a real kind of thrill for me. They're going to have my collection there, and scholars and students will be able to access it, and it's kind of a nice thing to leave behind. Yeah. So I'm really, really pleased with that. So my mom is inspiration one. Inspiration two, my dad, you heard me tell the story about living in a house with him where he loved what he did every morning when he got up and couldn't wait to get to work, and that set the mold for me. It really did, and it raised the bar awfully high. To find something you love, as I said, to get up on a rainy Monday morning and say, I can't wait to get to work, I've got that in my life. I not only have it in my life, but because I've taken something like comics and movies and TV and cartoons that I've been crazy about since I was little, I'm really in a job where I get to be 16 for the rest of my life, no matter how gray I get, and I like that part. The next thing is an important part for me. I had 2 teachers along the way. 2 ladies who it turned out were sisters-in-law. One was my 7th grade English teacher, and one was my 8th and 9th grade English teacher. These 2 ladies discovered in me some sort of creative writing talent, creative ability, and nurtured it, and brought out all kinds of things in me for things I was able to write, learn how to write, and how to utilize whatever abilities they felt that I had, and then beat me over the head to teach me to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and to understand the self-discipline necessary to be a writer. They made all the difference to me in the world. I had no idea I had these abilities and could do this kind of thing. I then had my work entered into a national creative writing contest by them. In high school, Scholastic magazine, it's still around, does a creative writing contest every year. So they submitted my work and I won. And then when I got to college, they had a college level creative writing contest. And so I entered that and I won that. And as a result of having won that, I was published for the first time.
In high school?
It was my freshman year of college. And that convinced me that I had the ability to make it in a creative field, that this was being recognized. So to make a very long story short, we had a Batman premiere in New York City. And I found my 2 teachers, and I sent a limousine for them and brought them to the premiere. And I had a chance to speak for about 10 minutes before the movie started. And I told the story of who they are and what they did for me, and that nobody would be here this night if it wasn't for these 2 ladies. And I made them stand up, and they got a standing ovation. And if that wasn't a total fantasy come true for me, something that I used to like lie in bed at night dreaming about in high school, like someday I'm going to come back and make them really proud, and It was a great moment. So they were humongous inspirations to me to get me on the road. There's a fellow, Roger Birnbaum, who is wonderful top executive in the motion picture industry, who at that point in time was working as, I think he was president of the Goober Peters Company. And Roger deserves all the credit for having found Tim and, you know, helped pull the thing together. That was a find. I remember they called me up and they said, we have a movie you have to see. We have a rough cut. It's called Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And you have to see what this guy has done. So I go in, and I was not a Pee Wee Herman fan going in, believe me. I go in, and I'm watching this movie, and I came out and I said, my God, this is the greatest marriage of art direction and direction than I've ever seen in my life. This guy is an incredible talent. And then they set up 3 lunches for me to meet with Tim and talk Batman with Tim. And boy, at the end of the first lunch, I was convinced. And it proved to be just a brilliant move. Again, it's about finding that genius out there who can then take something and really execute it. The reason that I loved Batman so much as a kid, again, more than Superman or Spider-Man or the Hulk, was this whole idea he was human. There was a point in time, as a deluded child, that I really did believe, okay, if I study real hard, and if I work out, and if my dad buys me a really cool car, I can do what this Batman guy does. I mean, I could really do this. And there's really something great about that kind of a reader identification that you can have with somebody. He gets shot, he bleeds. The risks are a little bit greater, and I just found that really appealed to me.